Well, in the last video I made, I recommended fitting a threaded inlet to the carburetor so your car wouldn't burst on fire. And in this, the second public safety information film, I also recommend not crashing into things in your car so it doesn't end up all bent, which is what has happened to mine. And I shall show you the consequences. We'll come back to down here, but we'll start at the back, at the scene of the crime. So this was back in June, end of June, a spin on what I think was spilt diesel on a wet slip road, and the back of the car spun around very suddenly, 180 degrees, and I was only going about 30 miles an hour, and this back corner, you can see the bumper down here, since taken off, took the impact there on a crash barrier, and you can see just down here where the bumper actually pierced, the edge of the bumper pierced the rear wing and pushed it in to the onto the tyre, and then scraped, so I was at this point sliding backwards, scraped down the side of the car along this lower door skin here, and then the big bolts that hold the sections of the barrier together caught on the trailing edge of this front door and pulled the skin right back, and then we scraped along just up to the edge of the front wing there. Now, fortunately, all this is superficial damage. I had thought originally that I'd hit the barrier side on here, but I had an engineer out looking at the car, and it was this corner, as that evidence actually suggests. If you look at this bumper here, and you can see where it's bent in there, and primarily bent the top section as well, across there. I've since obviously taken this off. I also managed to break the rear light lens, but I've now fitted a new old stock light lens. But all the boot floors are straight. The side of the boot panels in here are all straight. This is what's left of the rear light lens. And these are just old wing brackets which I'd also taken off, but the boot opens and shuts fine. And I will pop this rear wing off as if by magic. Give me a second. And you can see back here that the corner of this rear panel here has got a little bit bent, and the edge of the elephant's ear, this elephant's ear on the back is not in great nick anyways. The edge is starting to corrode, which is not uncommon. So I mean that just needs a little bit of straightening out there, but it might be an opportune time to replace that. But the inner wing, again, there are no bends, creases, buckles, anything like that. The C-pillar is all good. The rear door opens and closes fine. The front door less so, not because there's any damage to this B-pillar here, but rather that when this outer lip got caught, it twisted and distorted the inner frame of it and warped the panel, mainly here, but there's a crease might be hard to see on the camera, but actually there's a crease coming down here just below the door latch there. This door wasn't in the best of conditions anyway, but there we go. The rear wing I've just taken off actually looks an awful lot worse than it was, and this is because I took the wing off and hit it with a lump hammer to get it to sit over the bumper so I could drive the car back. But there was quite a thick skim of filler on this, which is what popped off on the impact. You can still see a little bit here, so it's not unusual, of course, for body work. Cars had some paint in the past. It's not unusual for there to be a skim of filler on, but it's quite thick in places. But there wasn't any. This is just surface rust that's come up since I've had the panel off. You can see where it's being ground back a bit, the grinder marks underneath there. So whether they were just a little bit lazy and didn't want to get a bit of a dent out or something, who knows. But there we go. So in the front A pillar rather, it's actually difficult to see here. I've had the front wing off, but the A post and the hinges here are all good. There's no distortion on those. So this whole spin, it was unusual, the back end stepping out. A car like this, you'd understeers if you're going too fast. These tyres have got plenty of tread on it. What was suspicious, I couldn't actually find a date code on them, but the tyres have got plenty of tread on, the correct inflation, etc. They're quite cheap tyres, but nevertheless I think it was the bend is coming off the M8 up to Springburn, those of you know that, and it's a slightly downhill tightening left-hander, and there's a big Royal Mail depot up there and Costco and Tesco and stuff. Apparently it's quite notorious, that junction, and lorries are forever spilling diesel about the shop. So I suspect that is what's happened. The whole spin and coming to a halt happened in about 20 meters or so. So I can attest to the effectiveness of D series brakes, but not sadly quite effective enough for me to avoid sliding down the barrier. But there we go. So I have got already a good second-hand rear wing and a good second-hand front door. So the next task will be to fitting these. Now the reason it's taken 3 months to get to this point is not to do with this, but I managed to do my back in, and then I was away on holiday, and whilst on holiday my bad back turned into sciatica. So the other bit of useful advice I can give to people is look after your back. Your back. You don't want to be getting sciatica. It's the most painful thing I've ever experienced, and it's only been the last couple of weeks that I've really been able to move about with some confidence. I'm still getting physio and stuff. It's still not 100%, but it's certainly the most debilitating thing that I've had. So the plan, such as it is to get these replacement doors and wings on. As I say, I've already made a start on the second-hand wing and getting that ready. This bit here I'll need to dress a little bit just to get that straightened out. I've got replacement mounting brackets for this side and also across here, because for some, and I don't quite know how this one came about, but I think the bumper twisted up a little bit this side and bent the bracket as well. So I've got new brackets for both sides. I've got new bumper mounts. You can see, if I get the camera down here, they're not too badly corroded, but nevertheless they sheared off. whilst I was taking them out, and although the nut, you can see, well, I don't know how well you can see actually in this light, that's a little bit better, that the bracket comes through here and there's a 26mm nut on, and although the nut started to undo, it wasn't undoing faster than it was actually twisting the metal, and it sheared off just on the other side of this mounting bracket here. This mounting bracket is okay, but there's a little bit of corrosion on it, so I might actually get a new one of those welded in. Not something I could do, but the plan is to get this little back corner here straightened out first of all, get the wing and the door mounted up, and then the car's up and running and roadworthy. I've got a rear bumper, but I don't have it yet, and I'm going to hold off putting that on until this is perhaps re-welded. I need to go and see about getting somebody to weld up this elephant's ear on this side, and then what I hope to do is see about having bought second-hand panels rather than new ones, stretching out the money I've got to see whether I could potentially get the whole car resprayed. I've got enough for one side, but having one side looking lovely and shiny and the other not would be a bit peculiar, I think. Although it would be a mobile before and after. What I'd like to do is to see if I can stretch it and get it all resprayed. This might mean getting the car into see if I can get a lock-up somewhere and dismounting all the panels myself, stripping all the glass and the handles, etc. off them, potentially even stripping the paint myself, depending on what it's going to cost me to get them sprayed up. So that is the plan, and be the focus of activities over the winter. There's a couple of other little jobs I want to do, mechanical jobs. The large rear suspension gaiters on the back here, whether we can get a view down here, well, you can see there is a slight weep for one. It's actually coming from where the Ligarex sits behind the sphere here. The Ligarex band goes around, it's leaking there a little bit, just the odd drip. But when I looked at it, I thought I'd just replace that Ligarex band, but when I looked at it, the rubber is starting to perish. And when I replaced the small gaiter on these, and there's videos about that earlier on in this channel, the push rods weren't looking brilliant. I cleaned them up a bit and they stopped the clicking, but I've now got new push rods for both sides, new large gaiters, the strapping to protect the boots from the Ligarex, and I'm also going to take that opportunity to send these rear spheres off to be refurbished, just to keep the thing propped up. I've kept the old front spheres, so I'm going to just bung those on, so it stays upright, and send the rear spheres off for refurbishment as well, and get that all sorted out. The rear spheres seem to be operating fine, but God knows how long they've been on there. Get these push rods and the rear gaiters changed, get that sorted out. That's the other last main mechanical thing. And then while that's all been sorted out, I can start to work on the bodywork. There's still a little bit of there's a washer and a rubber bung that goes on the bumper mounting brackets, which is wedged in between here and the mount on the inner sill, so I need to get that out, etc. But we're getting there. Hopefully the panel, obviously the rear panel's relatively simple. I just need to fit it up, make adjustments for the rear one. The front door is bottom hinge down here. There's a lock nut. If that lock nut's slackened off, then you can unscrew the pin there a little bit and lift the door off. It's just resting on the pin at the top here. So swapping the doors over is relatively straightforward. You get better access to this bottom lock nut if you take the front wing off and have the door closed, but I might see if I can get that sufficiently loosened so I can get the door off without taking the front wing off. So we shall see. So that's the update on what has been happening or not happening with this, and I'll do some more videos as I go along. Bye for now.